feeling like I'm academics.
Yeah, chat. We're here with my guy Myron Gaines. You guys know him from multiple different things at this point. Obviously, he has a very successful channel called Fresh and Fit, but he does do Fed Reacts. If you don't know, and I feel like I've explained this a bunch, he's a former HSI federal agent that worked at the southern border, I believe, for the majority of his time there, and he worked meticulously with all of these elements that we're talking about. And he formulated multiple cases, testified against multiple people for convictions. And I think there's no one better to get on here to give us like an insight, especially when we have questions about high profile people, how they got the video just leaked, and we'll go over that after we get past the suicide watch part. The video came out of how he got arrested. And again, we're glad to have you here because you could give us a lot of insight on everything. Anyway, what's up with you though?
Yo, chillin', man. For those that aren't aware, I was HSI special agent for 7 years. I started my career in Laredo, Texas. Then I transferred to the Miami field office. The agency that actually arrested Diddy is our New York field office, so I'm very familiar with that office and how they do things in the Southern District of New York. So, I mean, this is literally right in my wheelhouse, bro. I used to work for this agency. I know it in and out. I'm very familiar with the case. I've done these cases before. So, yeah, bro, whatever questions you got, I'd be happy to answer them. I know some of your audience might not be familiar with me, but this is something that I also do commentary, and I don't just yell at bitches all the time.
Hey, well, I felt like I asked you this before, but I'll ask you again because
Yeah, no
while
problem,
we were
bro.
seeing a lot of this unfold, and I remember I made a joke out of it, but I said, yo, when you have Homeland Security, because what the normal person is going to think of the word Homeland Security is like, you're locking up terrorists. I'm like, yo, Diddy must got a weapon of mass destruction in his pants if they're going after this man like this. Why Homeland Security getting that Diddy? And obviously they were very intricately involved in bringing this to the U.S. attorney.
Yeah, that's a great question because when people hear the term Homeland Security, they automatically assume terrorism, spies, all this other stuff. So, I could see why people would be confused. But the real reason why is, I'll kind of give the historical thing here. So, after 9/11 happened, the United States government pretty much restructured thanks to something called the Homeland Security Act, right, where we created the Department of Homeland Security. And what ended up happening was agencies like the FBI that had been, the main agencies doing organized crime, they started focusing more on counterintelligence, terrorism, etc. What that did was open the door for other agencies to come in and kind of take over organized crime, right? And HSI was one of those agencies that came in as the second biggest agency after the FBI, and they kind of took over a lot of these organized crime types investigations. Now, with that said, HSI investigates a multitude of different crimes: human trafficking, human smuggling, money laundering, drug trafficking, weapons smuggling, anything that has to do with crimes occurring going into the United States, having international nexus or interstate nexus, like in his Diddy case, transporting minors around, deals with HSI. So one of the big programmatic areas that HSI focuses on is human trafficking, not to be confused with human smuggling. I'd be happy to distinguish between the two if you want me to, but that's kind of a nutshell of why they're focusing on this. Human trafficking is a programmatic area that HSI focuses on because it's so intimately tied to human smuggling.
Okay. I'm glad you gave us some context on that. Okay, so two things. Diddy's taken into custody again. We're gonna go over. TMZ put out, and obviously they probably just hit the hotel with some money. Which, by the way, I'm still shocked. The hotel would, this is a 5-star. I was looking at the average prices. Diddy's probably staying at the top suites. 10,000 a night. We calculated it. If he stayed here for 12 days, 120,000. My boy was spending. Okay. 5-star hotel, but I'm guessing TMZ either got their source, somebody got paid off, but I'm sure the hotel isn't just giving this up because this is where the really rich and famous people stay if we're talking about 10 grand a night. You get what I'm saying? However, so we have that to discuss, but he's incarcerated, and after being incarcerated, we figured he'd be having some type of protective custody or whatever, but then the news comes out that he's on suicide watch. From your experience in law enforcement and dealing with, many people who you've, helped done the investigation to get arrested, what does that mean to you?
So, and that's actually one of the main reasons I want to jump on you. I actually have a source.
Jump on here, pause. No Diddy.
Yeah, I actually have a source. Pause. I actually have a source that works. So one of my good friends, that I work with on the border, he used to work for the U.S. Bureau of Prisons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's responsible for the jailing of federal inmates. And his buddy works at that detention center in Brooklyn. And he told them that Diddy actually isn't on suicide watch. They're just watching him very closely and making sure that he's segregated, et cetera, because he's obviously a celebrity, et cetera. But he's not necessarily on suicide watch. He's more in like protective custody.
Okay, and by the way, this wouldn't be voluntarily, right? Like, I don't think he gets the choice. This guy, if anything happens to him, by the way, I've looked up MDC. It's been known, like just in July, footage came out of an MS-13 gang member stabbing somebody 44 times in Brooklyn MDC before one correctional officer intervened, right? This looks like some type of general area. Obviously, I'm not saying Diddy's the most hated person, but people could be in there trying to make a name. You're never getting out. If you're the person who tried Diddy, it could be what it is. That would be very bad for, the federal government and even New York City itself. Do you think it's voluntary that he's in this state or no?
Nah, completely involuntary. They understand that a high-profile case like this puts them on the hook, and obviously, if something like Epstein happens again, it's going to lose an enormous amount of public trust. So they're going to do everything in their power to keep him safe and not have another Epstein situation, because that gave the federal government a very big black eye. So they're going to keep him in protective custody, no bunkmates. They're going to be watching him on camera, etc. And yeah, you're right. MDC Brooklyn is one of the worst jails in the United States by far, because the thing is that it's like an intermediary prison, right? So like while you're fighting your case, that's where you stay, right? It's not like a real, prison where you're going. That's kind of like an intermediary lockup, and there's like well over 1,000 guys in there. So definitely involuntary just on who he is, and if anything happens to him, it would really look bad on them, especially after the Epstein situation.
Yeah, speaking about Epstein, I don't know how you say his name, but speaking about that situation where it was said and announced that he committed suicide, even though he was supposedly on watch, right? I'm wondering, like, especially what would be protocol afterwards. I don't know if you would know, or maybe like your friend who's probably worked at these institutions would know, because I would imagine after the Epstein situation, anybody who's super high profile, who comes in here, who is facing a charge that carries life, we're immediately starting to do like, some psychology tests or some, evaluations of you to see where your mindset's at, that we could properly assess the situation, right? Like, some people might be able to put up fine with that. You know what I mean? Who knows? Maybe El Chapo's like, yo, little Chapito is coming in like 3 months to get me out of here, so I'm cool, or 3 years or 30 years, or he's just used to that type of lifestyle, knew he was going to go to jail eventually. Who knows? Versus Diddy's like, this is like beyond hell, right? You know what I mean? So mentally, he might not be able to cope as well as somebody else. Do you think they do like these mental evaluations on intake, or maybe they're like, man, tough it out?
Yeah, for something like this where it's kind of like pretrial detention, not really. Their job is to kind of hold the body while the guy is pending his case.
Okay.
That's kind of their job. So they're gonna do the bare minimum required. You know what I'm saying, to keep them safe and do what they got to do. But obviously, with someone like him, they're gonna be a bit more careful just because of how big he is.
Yeah. So, and you know what I said about that too? I said, when I seen the news that he's on suicide watch, I said that's a very sexy headline, but it also fools the public to think that Diddy might be expressing signs of suicide, which, again, I don't know what he's feeling or how he's acting at the moment, but I felt like that was more of a media thing, and the media right now is going to grab at everything and trump it up like, yo, suicide watch. It immediately makes us think Epstein and other things, while maybe it's just protocol, and I'm glad his lawyer kind of like, is trying to clarify it. I do want to play the video of him being taken into custody. Yeah, compared to the raid, it was very subtle, not heavy-handed.
It's exactly like how I told you it would be, right?
Yeah.
But then I tell you, it was exactly how I told you it would be.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Chat, if you guys haven't seen the video, this is on the front page of TMZ. It appears, by the way, I've talked to several people who were with Diddy as he was strolling down Manhattan, and going to various places. Looks like as soon as he got back into his hotel, they quickly just separated him from the group of people he was with. And they actually did this in a very, it wasn't like, hey, put your hands up, like slam him. None of that. I'll play the video if you guys haven't seen it real quick. It's a minute long. Diddy walks in with his people. Ooh, and quickly, I think these are federal agents. They step immediately. It's like they probably had somebody flanking him behind because they knew exactly when it was coming in. Yeah, no hesitation. They separate him. They separate him from everyone else. By the way, they're not wearing uniforms. It look like someone has a badge or something, but they're not wearing, uniforms that say like police or whatever. Don't even have to see a jacket. They walk with him alone. His people smartly don't follow and stay back.
Yep.
And I'm surprised there's only 2 agents. Like, Diddy was rolling around with an entourage of like 20 people, and it appears that they're joined by another officer who now.
All these guys are HSI special agents and task force officers.
Oh, wow. It's a lot of them now. Okay.
Yeah.
And now they're bringing Diddy out, and it appears that, his hand is behind his back. His hand is behind his back. And look like they stop him in that little area to probably like clear the walkway and make sure, they're probably trying to still keep it discreet, even though, an arrest is an arrest. And they're making sure the car is up front or whatever wagon they're going to put him in.
Yep.
Yeah, they're holding him. Yeah. And then they bring him out. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah,
crazy stuff, man.
Yeah, and this is him. This is him being walked. Walked quickly. Looked like quickly to a vehicle that's awaiting. We don't know what vehicle, if it's marked or unmarked, but I'm guessing by how they pulled up, probably unmarked, right? So unmarked. You've done these type of things. Obviously, you've worked a lot in the southern border, but generally, what would happen before this happened, around the time of this happened? Keep in mind, there's multiple videos of like 20 minutes before. He's walking around taking pictures. Apparently, was even in Central Park earlier that day. What do you think was happening the entire day?
From the agent's perspective?
Yep.
Okay, I'll take you through. So what more than likely happened was they had eyes on him. They were watching him the whole time, and they said, okay, when's the most opportune time to get this guy? They probably wanted to pick him up in a way where there weren't going to be a lot of people around him, besides, obviously his entourage. And as you can see, they did it pretty respectfully, right? They went ahead, just like I had predicted, and arrested him in a fashion where it wouldn't cause great public embarrassment. I'm sure TMZ had to work their asses off to get this footage. The agents probably didn't furnish it to them, etc. So when you pick somebody up like this, right, you want to pick them up in a way where it's cooperative, it's respectful. You don't want to embarrass them, and the reason for that is because you want this guy to cooperate. So you understand, you get more bees with honey than vinegar. So that's why they went with that softer approach. Because at the end of the day, this is a conspiracy case. Keep in mind, this is a racketeering case. Racketeering means that there's always going to be other conspirators involved. So they want his cooperation to get anyone else. And that's why I'm pretty confident that they went this route.
Yeah, it felt like they try to save his dignity to some extent. And we've seen a lot of times in New York City, like, for example, these are more local cases. But if anyone knows, and by the way, I give a shout out to Lisa Evers. She's one of the most amazing people in terms of, diligently working on news. She's a news reporter, but also in hip hop as well. She's covered these joints that usually the police will give her a ride along to the bust. And there's a lot of they just busted something called Slattery Gang. And the perp walk is crazy. There's mad cameras out there. They're letting the press know, like, yo, we're getting these guys. You're going to come watch us while we parade them out of the precinct to the holding area. It's almost set up for the media. Here, it looks like it was super discreet. They didn't rob him of his dignity. Is that always the case federally?
Yeah, the feds are way more fucking professional when it comes to arrests. And I'm not just saying this because I'm biased, but 9 out of 10 times, feds are way more professional when they go about the arrest. And the reason for why they do that is because typically when feds are investigating, they're doing more complex cases that encompass a bigger organization, and they want to go ahead and get cooperation. Now, with that said, I want to be very clear about this. If they're doing a roundup, and they're arresting a bunch of different dudes on the same day, then yeah, they'll do that perp walk.
Mm.
But something like this, right? If NYPD was arresting Diddy, they would make sure they did a perp walk. The feds, they're not going to do that because they want to get their cooperation.
Okay. All right. Now, on a logistics side of things, right? I remember everyone criticizing how they went into his houses. They looked like it was a militarized approach. Shit, I told people, I'm like, hey, listen, I could say the same game. They executed a search warrant at my house before they kicked my door down. You get what I'm saying? They came in with like a SWAT-looking vehicle. When I really asked them why, I'm like, what the fuck? They were like, listen, you have 50 guns at your house. Like, we don't know if you're going to just be willing. How do you think logistic-wise in making this arrest, they don't know Diddy's rolling with 20 people, right? Like, maybe he's cool to go, but somebody might have a gun. Yeah. How did they think it was going to be so smooth? We didn't see any type of force. Do you think they were kind of watching the individuals he was with? You never know. Security might not understand the situation, even though they should, because this was imminent, right? There was pretty much almost a plan. Diddy knew that he was going to get arrested. How did they know they were going to face no resistance? Because this was no resistance. He was cooperative. They were soft-handed. Pause. It worked out perfectly.
Yeah, I think it comes down to them doing their due diligence, watching him on surveillance, identifying everyone that's in his entourage that walks with him. They're obviously going to run every single person. Because here's the thing. When you're watching someone on surveillance like that, you're going to identify all the people that they're rolling with. And when you're someone like a Diddy, you're going to roll around with the same people every single time, whether it's your security guard, your publicist, etc. You're going to start to surround yourself by the same people everywhere you go. So the feds absolutely identified who these individuals were. They ran them through, ATF, see who has guns, who doesn't. They ran their driver's licenses. They got them fully identified and, ran criminal histories on them. So you can rest assured the fact that they went ahead and approached Diddy in this manner, they absolutely knew who everyone was in that entourage and made the decision to go about it that way and kind of arrest them. And I'm sure they probably still did it, what's called an operation plan, which I'd be happy to explain that if you want me to.
Yeah, but, absolutely. Go ahead.
Something like this, they knew what was going on and they knew who the people were. So that's why they went with that soft approach on top of what I said before, trying to elicit a cooperation. Now, an operation plan. Okay, let's go through this. So an operation plan, guys, every single time you do an enforcement action in law enforcement, whether it's serving a search warrant, an arrest warrant, you're doing a knock and talk, you're doing anything that can lead to some type of enforcement action where use of force can potentially come, even something like this, which is, consider what I would consider a soft arrest, you should do something called where you have to do something called an operation plan, even for something like this. And the reason for that is because the operation plan not only covers what the objective is, it tells you who's going to be on the operation plan. If there's any informants, it's going to show who that informant is. If there's any undercovers, it's going to show who the undercover is. It's going to show which agents are in what position, the perimeter guys, the entry guys, the search team, etc. The arrest teams, the teams that take the prisoners back to the processing station, depending on how complex the takedown is. So, and then what vehicle every agent is using, the radio frequencies that they're going to use, etc. It details the entire operation. And actually, this is one of the things I was extremely critical of when Trump was almost assassinated back in July. The number one thing I said when I went on a bunch of different podcasts explaining this, because I had done Secret Service details as well, and I know how they operate, is you need to go and look at the operation plan and see who the lead agent was and the supervisory special agent that signed off on it. Right. And I can go into ranking of agents and that too if you want me to, but I'll stay focused on this operation plan thing. So the operation plan details everything. And the reason why it's so important, let's say there's a shooting and someone gets killed. The first thing internal affairs is going to do is go look at the operation plan and make sure the agent that was involved in that shooting was on that operation plan. He uses authorized weapon. Then they get into, was the shooting clean? So the operation plan is kind of like a CYA and a little bit of protection when you do your enforcement action.
Perfect. I do. So I have a couple of questions. I wrote them down as you were speaking. It appears that the men who stepped, obviously they're in plain clothes. The officers, the agents. We're in the time and the land of body cam. Yeah. Would they have a body cam on? It don't seem like they would, but wouldn't that be important even on a for the case, if Diddy says something, you know what I mean? Like, these are important. So I wanted to ask about the body cam generally. especially in this situation because it looked like plain clothes. Second of all, they brought him upstairs, right? Clearly, because when it goes to the next clip, you see them hitting the elevator rather than just taking him directly back outside. Obviously, we subsequently realized they searched his room. Why do you think that they took him into custody, brought him somewhere still within the hotel rather than immediately just bringing him out of the hotel to maybe a vehicle and then getting him out of there?
So what they probably did was they probably executed something called like a consent search, and they said, "Hey, look, Diddy, we got a warrant for you." This is, you know what? Matter of fact, let's go ahead and play through this, right?
They gave him paper. That's what I was going to ask you too. It looked like they were serving him papers. That's the first thing they walk at him with, right here, right here.
This is what
they walk at him with a paper in hand, and I you could probably tell me what they're probably saying, and I'm like, usually with local law enforcement, they're not gonna be like, here's the arrest warrant. They just say, come here, motherfucker, you in cuffs, right?
Yeah,
So what do you think that is, and why do you think they? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll tell you exactly what they did. They probably walked up, Mr. Combs, we got a warrant for your arrest. It's been signed by a magistrate. Let's just do this nice and smooth. We're gonna walk you to your room, get any belongings that you might need, because we're gonna be taking you to the marshals. Mm-hmm. And we're not gonna cuff you right now, but we're gonna have to cuff you later. And at that point, and that's kind of smart for them to do that because what they're basically doing is, look, do you need anything that you need to get out of your room? And what that basically does is allows them to follow him up to his room, because once you tell him that he's under arrest and you serve him with that paperwork, he is your problem now. He's officially like your prisoner, and he's under your auspice. So now you can't leave him out of your sight, right? He's no longer free to go. So they take him upstairs to get whatever, but there's something in the legal system called right to see, right to be. So they lawfully have him, and they're taking him up to his room, right? Hey, do you want anything out of your room? Yeah, I need to get some things. Cool. That's effectively consent. Now, if you really want to be safe, you have them sign a consent form when you go in there.
Okay.
Right, to be extra safe. Hey, do you ever give us the permission to consent to search? Or they could go in, see something that might demonstrate that there's criminal activity going on. Maybe they see some coke on the counter, whatever it may be. They could secure the room, go get a search warrant, and come back and search it after the fact because they were legally there and saw the cocaine. And now they have probable cause to search the rest of the hotel. So this is actually a very intelligent way to kind of get yourself in the room, to snoop around and see if you could collect more evidence while simultaneously masking it as a humanitarian effort where you're allowing them to get their personal belongings before they go to jail. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. So it's a possibility that maybe they didn't have a warrant for the room. I also do want to ask, but that's a good way to be like, hey, you need to grab anything. They walk in. They're not going to just let him just, waddle in. Well, I guess he was not cuffed then. Oh, just go in the room and do what you want. We'll wait outside. They're going to walk in with him. Now they're looking around. If they see something illicit, they're like, all right, well, that's PC for us to keep searching and find even more stuff. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that maybe they were also set up somewhere else in that hotel? Maybe other agents, kind of monitored maybe not only his room. And what do you think that their interaction with the hotel was? You think they got to tell the hotel like, hey, we're here to do a police operation on one of your guests, or they're just thugging it? There's in there.
Yeah. So when I would do operations, I wouldn't tell the hotel shit. I would just be sitting there. Obviously, special agents are plainclothes, as you guys can see here. So I would just be sitting there chilling and wait for him to come in. Obviously, I got agents that were following him the whole time, and they're telling me, hey, he's about to walk in right now, blah, blah, blah. And then that's when I, make the approach like these guys did. I mean, this is, textbook, soft approach, arrest, get them to cooperate, etc. You don't tell the hotel nothing. You kind of do this surreptitiously, especially when you have someone famous like that. Typically celebrities like this have a connection and or a contact at the hotel. Yeah. So you don't want to notify the hotel because they might go ahead and tell Diddy, yo, just so you know, bro, there's some federal agents here asking questions.
Do you think Diddy knew he was probably being followed or being surveilled? Maybe the whole time he was in New York, but definitely that day. I know that the security for 6ix9ine, he said like the 2 days before the feds he really came in. It was very obvious. It was like super obvious. Like the block is just filled with different cars. It's just clear they were under surveillance, and he was able to spot that out. Do you think that maybe Diddy, who was primarily walking around, probably start noticing, I know he's famous, so like you might just think it's fans, but start noticing a couple things different because this is an operation to follow him to make sure, he's
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he might have noticed it, but the thing is that he's been at least Diddy has been on notice that he's been under investigation as soon as they hit his houses back earlier this year and they did the search warrants. So at some point, at first he was probably really, freaking out, like, am I being followed, whatever. But then it starts to kind of, that level of paranoia just naturally goes down. You're under investigation. You know what's coming. You know you're going to get arrested at some point, and you kind of chill. And, like, at this point, you can see he's very calm when they come up to him. It's almost like he knew it was going to come at some point, just waiting for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And it came, and he was smooth about it, and he knew. So it's a whole different thing when you know that you're going to be arrested versus when you get suddenly arrested.
Do you think, this might sound crazy, but do you think potentially he might be a little bit relieved because getting up every day, knowing that it's any day now, right? And you're like, will it be today? I'm getting locked up. Am I going to get locked up in front of my kids? Am I getting locked up in front of, like, while I'm doing a shout out video with fans? Like, how embarrassing is this going to be? Do you think he's a little bit at least relieved? Because he again, pretty much knew it was coming, right? And this was a pretty much low key gig.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll tell you a funny story. Anytime I'm going after someone, especially with drug traffickers, because drug traffickers are like the most paranoid criminals, because for them to facilitate their crime, they have to do their crime pretty often to make the money that they make, right? They always got to be dealing with product, dealing with money, dealing with weird individuals that they got to sell to, dealing with a connect here. So drug dealers are some of the most paranoid criminals that you deal with. And anytime I caught a drug dealer, right, on the ride to the jail, they would fall asleep. And the reason why is because they could finally fucking relax. So the first night that you get caught is actually some of the best sleep that they get, ironically enough.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. Because I mean, at that point you can't do anything. It's kind of over. Wow.
They've been on edge. It's something that not many people know unless you've been a federal agent and arrested high-profile criminals.
Yeah.
They literally fall asleep the first time you get them.
Let me also ask you. So in this process, and I think, damn, I feel like we're like a hip hop legal channel at this point because we've been covering so many like cases and stuff. But a lot of people who are watching, they're familiar with like Miranda rights, and that's being informed of your rights, that anything you say or do afterwards could be used in that particular or any subsequent criminal case against you, and it's called Miranda rights. So it's like you have the right to remain silent. Now, do you think they do that immediately, or they wait till he gets to downtown, and we're saying downtown as whatever precinct it is, before they either, I don't know if they would try to talk to him again, if they haven't done an interview with him before, or as soon as they're putting the cuffs on him, they give him the Miranda rights?
All right, so that's a fantastic question. Really good. And I'm going to have to answer this in different parts because it depends. So when you first encounter the guy, like you see here, you don't want to read him his rights right away.
Why not?
And I'll tell you why. So you come up, hey, look, Diddy, we got a warrant for your arrest. Come with us. And then what you're going to do is you're going to kind of shut up or make small talk. How's your day today? How are you doing?
What?
Etc. You're not asking him incriminating questions. You're asking him, like, hey, we'll talk later. But you're just starting creating small talk, right? Let's see if they give you a spontaneous utterance when they get arrested. And I kind of explained this last time, but I'll explain it one more time for your audience because I know there's new people watching this stuff every day.
Yeah.
The spontaneous utterance is when you go ahead and you're making an arrest and the individual says something at the spur of the moment. Oh, I knew I shouldn't have taken that cocaine. Fuck this dude, bro. Damn it, Rico. Well,
or they say like, oh, so-and-so snitched on me. Must have.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Or like, bro, I knew this was a setup from Rico or some shit like that, right? That is considered a spontaneous utterance, and even though you didn't Mirandize him, that comes in because he just said it, right? So the Miranda kicks in really when there's two things present. When the person isn't free to leave and you're asking questions about their criminal activity, right?
Yeah.
So, and this is kind of where you dance. This is what separates good agents from bad agents, right? This is actually what we're talking about right now. And I'm kind of getting in the weeds here, but I really want to give this detail to your audience. Like, they're going to get the sauce today. The good agents make the small talk, don't talk about the criminal shit, build rapport, bond with the dude, pause, right? And they do it totally naturally. Like, he's talking to you as if he's your buddy, and you don't even think he's a criminal investigator. Hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Look, man, I know this shit sucks. Let's just go get your shit. We don't want nobody seeing this. I'm going to cuff you in the front. You know, I got some guys outside. They're going to tell me when the coast is clear, we're going to bring you outside. We're going to make sure we wave off the paparazzi. They're not going to get no pics, right? We're going to take care of you in this situation. I know this sucks, bro, but we're going to, you know, we're going to handle it. Boom. Take them upstairs. You're still talking to them, soften them up, etc. And a lot of the times when criminals are getting arrested, they'll partake in the small talk with you. They will, right? So, because it's a very awkward situation, but they also kind of want to, you know, feel that they're talking to a human, you know, depending on the individual. Hardened criminals will just shut the fuck up. Dudes that have been arrested a million times, they won't say nothing. But somebody like a Diddy who's never really been like arrested for real and spent time behind bars, they're going to be more apt to talk, right? So you're going to go ahead and build rapport with your guy. Then you're going to take him to the station. Once you get him in the station, you're going to put him in a room. And you're going to say, look, you hungry, you thirsty, you need anything? Yeah, you know, I'll get some water, whatever. All right, cool. Hey, we're about to order food from this spot. You want anything? Oh, really? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. I'm going to order some food. I'll come back. Go strategize with your partner, what questions you're going to ask, how you're going to run it, get your recording equipment ready, blah, blah, blah. Come back in, give him his food, make some more small talk with him. You know, hey, you need to make any phone calls? You need to call any family, anything like that? You know, I'm not supposed to let you do this, but, you know, you need to make any phone calls? You want to call your lawyer?
You started playing the game. I'm not supposed to let you do this.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. So you know what I'm saying? Like, dude, I'm telling you, I used to really do this shit, man. Like, I got a director's award for a fucking reason, bro. Like,
and by the way, I'm watching this video, and I just noticed something else. When he walks in the hotel, there's an agent. So, Chad, if you're looking on the screen, there's an agent who's in that second corridor, or it's almost like a walk up to the front of the hotel. He comes in right when Diddy walks in. He cuts off the rest of the crowd. If you notice, the crowd stops. He clearly says something to them like, "Yo, all y'all back up." And then he walks in front, and then you'll see him in the next frame. I'm going to show you, Chad. So these two go after Diddy, and then there's a bunch of people here, and I think he says something to them. He's right here. You see this guy stop? Everybody kind of stops at the door. They don't keep walking in. Then this is the guy right here. He's going to cut them off and join these two agents. Yep. You see him right here, bald-headed guy? He cuts these guys off, right? He kind of walks through the crowd, right? And then you're going to see him, not in this one, but I'm going to show you the same guy again, which obviously they kind of, yeah, he's right here. They kind of knew what was gonna happen. They knew he was with probably like 10 dudes. They're like, all right, cool. He's kind of in the front of the entourage. As soon as I don't know how they're communicating, but as soon as he goes in,
they see two white dudes come at them. They know what time it is, man. Like, you know, there's no reason 3 white dudes are coming up to me, you know, with fucking tactical shoes on, trying to talk to Diddy. But let me just finish the Miranda thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So you put him in the interview room, etc. You're talking, making small talk. At this point, it's maybe been 45 minutes to an hour, right? Then you come in, you're like, all right, look, bro, we gotta talk real quick. I just got some questions, but before we get into that conversation, I gotta read your rights. Boom, you read him his rights, right? And also, I forgot to mention this. Before you read him his rights, you gather biographical information, name, age, date of birth, all the shit stuff. You
still think they got to do that for Diddy, or you think they already got the paperwork there?
They already got it, but you're going to ask him these questions to build rapport, because when you ask him where he's from or how all that, it generates conversation. So you're doing the small talk, getting his personal biographical information, even though you already got it, right? And then you tell him, hey, look, bro, I just got to ask you some questions. I'm reading your rights real quick. You got the right to marry and silent, blah, blah, blah. And then they're going to give him the Miranda form to sign. And you're going to tell him, look, you don't got to sign it, but, you know, it's just to let you know that I read it. And can I ask you some questions? And then a lot of the times after you've built that rapport, they'll say, okay, go ahead. And then that's when you can start asking your questions, and everything that you get is clear. So
I hate to cut you off, but I do want to ask this one question.
Yeah,
so okay, cool. You read the Miranda rights, and now the guy says when you say, if you sign it, we could talk. If not, you know, your lawyer or whatever, right? The guy says, I'll talk to you only if it's a possibility of me getting out of here today. Could you blatantly lie to him about that? Like, because you got to realize, someone who would want to talk at that point, if they would want to talk, if they're like, hey, you know, if I could clear something up for you that I could walk out of here, cool. But you know, it's kind of conditional at times. What would you say to that person?
Okay, so I'm gonna give your chat some sauce right now if they ever find themselves in police custody. This is what they're gonna say 99% of the time for all of you guys, right? Anytime you're the subject of investigation, they're gonna say, "I can't make no promises.
Oh man.
Let me call the AUSA, aka the prosecutor. Let me talk to my supervisor. Let me make a phone call." They're gonna say that. What they're gonna do is they're gonna defer that decision to somebody else and say, "Let me talk to them." That's what they're always gonna say every single time. Because at the end of the day, like, and I kind of explained this on the last one, but I'll do it. Like, I really want to give your audience the insight here. Federal agents don't really have as much power as people think they do. It's really the AUSAs, aka the federal prosecutors, that make the shots, that call the shots. Like, your job is to do the investigation, arrest them. But once you got him under arrest and you're starting to gather evidence on him there and then, now the AUSA kind of has a lot of leeway into what happens. So
Wait. Let me ask about that. I think you may have cleared it up last time, but I'll ask again. Maybe you could do it again. So, like, when a cop, like, for example, I've seen, like, I watch so many body cam footage, but a cop will pull somebody over and they'll be like, "Yo, I'll cut you a break, bro. I'm not gonna charge you for this little ounce of weed, but suspended driving, the kilos of coke, I'm definitely charging for." And that seemed like officer discretion on what is going to be the charges that person's getting. So is there no discretion for the agents who are doing these investigations, arresting the guy? Okay, we're not gonna. All right, come on. Of course, you had a little pink cocaine in your room. We're not gonna hit you with charges for that, though.
Yeah. Well, if it's a little pink cocaine, a lot of times it's not going to reach federal threshold for them to even warrant a prosecution. But
okay.
But to answer your question more fully, the state and locals have way more latitude to make probable cause arrests than the feds do. And the reason for that is because federal cases tend to be more complex, and AUSAs are very picky, and AUSAs don't want to lose their cases. So the agents got to work with the AUSA for a period of time before they can get the indictment to actually go pick the guy up. Whereas if you get stopped by a local police officer, he catches you with dope, he can make the arrest right then and there. But the feds aren't like that. You're not going to go to federal prison for having an ounce of cocaine. No AUSA is going to take that. That's street level shit, state. They're not going to take that unless the person's like a violent criminal. You know, there's some other extenuating circumstances. So the feds don't have as much jurisdiction to make probable cause arrests as the state does. Now, with that said, let's say you have them in your custody. Let's say, okay, let's go through a hypothetical here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say they bring Diddy back, right? And Diddy's like, "Look, I'll cooperate with y'all. I'll give y'all somebody big," right? And he provides information that is good. The agent can go ahead and make a phone call to the AUSA and say, "Look, we need this guy out on bond," right? We're going to continue on because obviously we got the arrest warrant. We got to bring him in front of the magistrate, but we need this dude out on bond, all right? And this is a rare situation because typically when they're indicted and shit like that, it's been public or whatever, but there are certain situations where you could get the guy out on bond after the fact to cooperate.
Okay.
That is when agents could kind of come in and throw their weight around a little bit because what they're going to say is like, "Yo, we want to further the investigation. I need this guy out." And then if the AUSA is like, "All right, you want to further the investigation," and they kind of agree, then they'll talk to their team, and then they're going to go ahead and not object to bail.
Interesting. By the way, another question, not exactly a follow-up to that, but one that I thought of in terms of like just agent rapport with maybe a potential defendant. A lot of people in hip hop have thought or has, assumed, like actually I believe one of his bodyguard has even said that based on certain communication they've seen before that seemed odd with Diddy and law enforcement, they actually believe that Diddy was a working CI at a point for maybe the feds. Okay, how would this work if you've had a CI? And by the way, we don't know if Diddy's a CI, so we're going off an assumption here, but I just want to set the scenario that we could get a realistic answer. If one of the CIs, right, ends up being a subject of a major arrest, how much of because I'm wondering, let's say Diddy was a CI at one point, could he be like, "Yo, listen, I was giving you guys information, like you guys can't come back and charge me with certain shit, like I was help setting up other people for y'all"? Like, could that be a thing, or would they make sure that the lines are very clear on, hey, if you were going to participate in criminal behavior, we would make sure we clear you for that, but there's no way you're just a CI? Because I don't know if you've seen this movie on anybody seen this? One in the chat if you've seen this. It's called but it's popping on Netflix right now. Whitey Bulger, who's like a drug kingpin out of Boston, who was a CI for the FBI for all the years, and he was snitching on all his competitors, but he started taking it overboard because they told him, hey, you're a CI, we're going to kind of like look the other way with a lot of stuff you're doing, right? Because we have all these quotas and whatever to make, but you can't kill people. You know what he does? He feels like he has the protection of the feds. He starts killing people. You get what I'm saying? So later he gets taken down. Do you think that might, if Diddy was a CI, that might complicate things if now they're investigating crimes that maybe he was a CI for other people to take down other people of similar crimes?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I'll have to kind of answer this kind of like the Miranda thing to give you the full picture, because this is another situation where it depends, but I'll go ahead and give you the different scenarios.
By the way, the movie's called Black Mass. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Whitey Bulger, I'm very familiar with him. Winter Hill Gang, Irish Mob. He basically provided information to the FBI against the La Cosa Nostra, the Angiulo family out of there in Boston, North Boston to be exact. And he was instrumental in, the FBI getting him, and he ended up getting John Connolly in trouble later on. I'm very well aware, I went to college in Boston, so that case has a very significant role in my thing. But anyway, let's talk about informants. So there's two types of informants. Oh, actually, there's multiple types of informants. There's cooperating witnesses, there's cooperating defendants, and then there's official confidential informants that are signed up getting paid, right? So for this case, we'll focus on confidential informants that are paid, because these are the ones that are actually documented, I think, that you're trying to refer to. There's paperwork on them. They have something called a CI number, right? It'll be like CI-11234, right? You never use his real name when you write your reports. You just refer to him as CI, blah, 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 right?
Okay.
So with these informants, if they're active and they're doing something where they're operating under the authority of an agent, let's say they're doing an operation where the CI is buying drugs or whatever, and that CI is arrested by police while performing under the authority of the government, the agent is going to get that CI out, because obviously they directed him to do a criminal activity, and maybe he got busted by the locals or whatever, and they'll facilitate getting him out, whatever it may be, right? But a lot of times there's something called deconfliction. Okay, holy shit. So I got to step back here. Remember how I had mentioned the operation plan before?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how on the operation plan you got a CI in there, and the CI is identified, so there's no blue on blue or shooting the CI or any of that other shit.
Okay.
Another important thing when you do operations, you're going to do something called deconfliction. And what deconfliction is you're going to call all the you're going to call like a law enforcement hotline, and you're going to say that you got an operation going, and if anyone else is going to be in the area conducting an operation. And this intermediary group, which every state has a different way of doing it, is going to tell you if there's any operations in that area. Now, if there is an operation in that area, they're going to say, look, there is an op where you're going to try to do your op. It's DEA Special Agent Mike Thompson. And they're going to give you Thompson's number. You're going to call Thompson and say, hey, bro, I'm from HSI, I'm from FBI. We're going to do a drug buy here. Where are you guys going to be? Oh, we're going to be here. Okay, cool. Now you know that there's another operation. You can either proceed with your operation or push it back or try to adjust the time so that there's no issues, right? So that's how you kind of mitigate that whole CI thing. That's if your CI is active and you're actually doing something. Okay. Now, let's assume the CI is deactivated, right, and does some stupid criminal shit, which this happens all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've had to fucking go to a police station to go deal with my informant doing dumb shit. Because the thing is, with informants, the best informants are actually criminals. So that means that they commit crime. And a lot of times they're not going to commit crime that's sanctioned by you. So what ends up happening is they get jammed up, they get arrested. First thing they tell the fucking guy is, oh, I'm an informant. The fucking guy calls you, hey, I got this dude here. He says he works for you. Okay, I'll be over. Now, and depending on how good the informant is, you're either going to say, A, fuck it, do what you got to do with him, or B, I'll be right there. You go over there, you got the fucking guy, you talk to the investigator. If it's local police, a lot of the times they'll do you a solid. They just let him go. Less paperwork for them. Really? If it's another federal agency, they'll be like, yeah, bro, we kind of got him dead to rights, blah, blah, blah. It is what it is. And you're like, okay, cool, no problem. And then, you let him get arrested and you do your deactivation paperwork, because the CI getting arrested without your, while not doing something for you, that's a big violation. So that's kind of the whole situation when it comes to CIs. I kind of went in the weeds there, but I hope that answers it.
Yeah. So okay. But all right. But in a situation like this, again, we're going off conspiracy theories. They say back in the 90s and early 2000s, Diddy was a CI.
It wouldn't protect them. It wouldn't protect them because what'll happen is, let's say he does say I was a CI. The first thing they're going to ask is, who did you work for? Oh, I work for FBI. Okay, who was your handler? This guy. Okay, well, that agent doesn't work anymore, and you haven't been a CI in 20 years, 30 years. It won't matter.
Okay, but do you think that would affect, though? Like, for example, what people have noticed with this indictment, it starts at 2008, right? And a lot of people say, yo, where's the murders? Where's the Tupac thing? A lot of things that happened in the 90s, people are wondering why those things aren't charged. And by the way, we're going to talk about a criminal complaint next because, or not a criminal complaint, the indictment, because the indictment is pretty, at least this first one is pretty bare bones. Clearly look like they're seeking another one because we're hearing the grand jury still going on. But still, do you think that if he was a CI at some point, maybe they're like, hey, listen, we wouldn't even want this to come up in court to fuck up our situation. If we have a continual path of criminal behavior, let's start from the years that he clearly had zero association with the feds. You think they might do that, or they're like, nah, fuck it, we're putting everything in, even if he was a working CI at that point or not?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a working CI, it'll give him a little bit more protection. But if you're doing fuck shit, bro, especially a serious crime like this, it's not going to protect you being a CI at all.
Yeah. Okay. The indictment. People have a lot of, and by the way, chat, we're going to get to playing some of the opinions of a lot of people in hip hop. Dr. Umar says, what the hell? Since when is being freaky a crime? Boosie says, this feels like it's just a trumped up way to try to take down a guy who was just freaky and into threesomes. Some other people are very surprised to say, well, if Cassie is the only victim, wow, think about this. Like Wack 100 has even gone to ask the question, is like, did she really backdoor him, in the sense of she demanded money privately, then filed a lawsuit, then got it settled, and then still went to the feds? You get what I'm saying? Meaning that maybe if there wasn't a financial incentive for Cassie, this wouldn't be that big of a deal. And I guess people are criticizing the indictment because we expected to see like 10 witnesses, or not 10 witnesses, but 10 victims, and be like, hey, he beat the shit out of her. He got her beat by somebody else. She's sexual assaulted. She was sexually assaulted. It seems primarily hinged on Cassie. Thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that they kind of got out a bare bone indictment in the beginning. They're probably they're going after someone that is obviously very affluent, has the ability to fight this case. So they're going to go with what they know. They got him dead to rights, right? So, and then also, obviously, the investigation is pending. They're trying to flip people. They're trying to get more witnesses, etc. So I definitely foresee that there's going to be a superseding indictment. I mean, hell, they found an AR-15 with scratched off serial numbers at one of his houses. They could charge him with that all day, 18 U.S.C. 922K, right? So that's a federal charge right there that carries five years just off of the serial number. So, I do predict that they can go ahead and get a superseding indictment, but I think that they're trying to elicit some cooperation and not play all their cards yet, especially given since this guy has the ability to fight this case.
Hey, also as well, in the indictment paperwork, they provided some notice that there could be matters or assets that could be forfeited under, I forgot what the statute is. Is that normal? We usually hear about forfeiture in drug cases, but a forfeiture in a freak-off case kind of seems crazy.
Sorry about that. The forfeiture in a freak-off case, you said?
Yeah. Like usually when people hear about forfeiture, it's like, yo, you've been transporting drugs in your Rolls Royce, and you've been using this house as a stash house,
For sure.
And you've damaged the community. You've there's a lot of damages from all the activity you had going on that was criminal. We need to, make people whole, and we're going to seize these assets under the forfeiture law to kind of make that happen. But in this case, it's sex trafficking, obviously clearly a crime, but why would forfeiture even be on the table?
Yeah, so if you have a structure or a piece of property that was used to facilitate a crime, that asset or whatever it is can now be forfeitable. So I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm a drug trafficker, right? And I got 3 bank accounts. and $1 of my drug proceeds goes into what the clean money, now all the clean money is forfeitable. Or if I'm stashing drugs at my house or have stashed drugs in my house, now that house becomes forfeitable because it was used in a crime. Same thing with these freak-offs were conducted probably at locations that he owned. Now those locations are forfeitable as well. Because it was used to facilitate the crime.
I've always heard that the forfeiture law is very like people have mixed opinions about it, right? Like for example, I'll just make up a scenario. Okay, Roger got caught for selling dope, right? He was selling dope, and he was using one house as a stash house, but the stash house is really owned by his grandma, who supposedly didn't really know what he was doing. She's had that house for 3 generations, passed from her grandmother or her mom and her mom's mom, and now they're snatching an asset that is, a family thing, and they're basically saying it's all for drugs, while the original owner, right, the grandma, wasn't complicit in this or wasn't intricately involved. So some people kind of feel like that's kind of unfair.
Yeah, so in that case, the government would have to prove that the rightful owner knew that that criminal activity was being conducted at the residence.
Okay.
So
No, keep going.
No, I was just gonna say they would have to prove that, and then they'd be able to seize it. But if they can't prove that the individual that rightfully owns it was facilitating, they probably can't take it.
Hey, by the way, so the full bail package, which was ultimately denied by the district judge, Aaron.
And I'm shocked about that actually. That they
Andrew
denied it.
L. Carter. Yeah. I was gonna ask you about, in your time as a agent, have you ever seen a bail package this complex, this lavish, this this is a over the top attempt to get him out of jail? And
Yep.
I guess obviously this would be more of a question for Laura, but you definitely have probably seen these cases a lot. If they tend to turn down your either bail package or either deny you a bond initially, once it gets to the district judge, do you think he'll get bail at all?
In a lot of situations, the district judge ends up agreeing with the magistrate judge because the magistrate, and just for the audience so they understand. So guys, when Diddy was brought in front of a judge, he was brought in front of a magistrate judge. Magistrate judges are kind of like a formality to get you into the system because they're like on duty, and whoever was on duty that day to take on, for that week, they got to do all initial appearances. So it's kind of like, a luck of the draw. Then that magistrate judge, once they read your rights and, get you into the proceedings, they assign you a district judge. And then the district judge is going to be the one that actually presides over your case, etc. Now, in most situations, the district judge does agree with the magistrate judge, but there are opportunities for the defense to make arguments as to why they want to get bond. So in this case, I will not lie. This is an extraordinary bail package. I have never seen something so extensive when it comes to putting up your assets. I've never seen something this big. And to be honest with you, I'm actually really surprised that he didn't get bond. I thought he was going to get bond because from what I know, his defense team had been extremely cooperative with the feds. But clearly the AUSA's office doesn't care. They don't want him out. They argued against getting him out, as a matter of fact. I think the reason why is probably because they found firearms at his house. They found the AR-15 that had the scratch serial number, etc. So, but I've never seen a package this extensive ever.
By the way, it looks like they were always going to push for detention. I think his lawyer was angling towards it because they said, remember the raid happened on, I believe, March, is it 16 or March 20? 25th, I believe. That's when the search warrant was executed. Yep. They sent a letter to the AUSA. Didn't get a response, but they also said, hey, the council has taken his passports. It felt like they were trying to offer the passports to the government. The government just wasn't asking for it. Like it didn't feel like they wanted to play ball. So, his lawyer said something interesting, which I don't know if you would have the expertise to know about why when the arrest warrant would be executed. But he feels like they wanted to arrest him spontaneously rather than a mutually agreed time to turn himself in, because it would make him look better in the eyes of the court for a possible release for bond. If the counsel, if lawyers is saying, yo, we got all of their passports, including his mom, all of the daughters, or, all of his daughters, and the feds doesn't say, give us the passport, they essentially just allow his lawyers to quote unquote have it and never take custody of it or never take control of it. Maybe they kind of wanted to push for a detention, right? Because they are still making the case for flight risk.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I mean, it didn't seem like they really wanted to play ball like that from looking at the emails and stuff. I know that his legal team definitely had been cooperating, but, at the end of the day, the AUSA's office decides who they want to get out on bond and who doesn't. I was actually surprised, but now that we see what's going on, there's a very good chance that he might not get bond at all. So, and that's kind of just how it is, which kind of sucks for Diddy. But I've never seen a bail package so extensive ever.
Yeah, they have detailed here with all the emails, basically like, hey, following up from this email, we'd love to touch base. Hey, he's traveling from here to here. Like they're literally like offering up a lot.
They went above and beyond. And like I said before, the last time we spoke, they did this in anticipation that he was going to be arrested and they wanted to angle for him to get bond.
Do you think an appeal, obviously they said they're going to the Second Circuit courts, they're going to appeal this. Do you think that if you're saying this is above and beyond, and obviously the guns were an issue, right? Okay, cool, they found the guns. I think the witness intimidation is the worst thing. And now I'm going to ask you this, because you've always said this and I've gotten this from you. You said the right to monitor one's phone calls is like the highest amount of probable cause you would need to get that warrant to tap somebody's phone call.
Yeah.
They know of multiple attempts and calls that he made. Oh, hey, he called Kalina 54 times after he got a new civil lawsuit last week. I don't know if his phone is tapped, but it seems like they know a lot. Do you think they tapped his phone?
No. And the reason why is because for a case like this that's historical, they're investigating crimes that already occurred. You're not going to be able to get the information that you need from wiretaps. And then on top of that,
what about maybe a confession, an admission? Because I would think they would want to hear these conversations. To maybe he's calling them and be like, hey, you remember that one rainy night when we was all on the yacht and like you had 3 dicks in your mouth and you was drenching baby oil? Yo, I know you was tripping in the morning, but you got to tell him you were with it. You know what I mean? Like, he might say some things, he might say some things that'd be like, okay, so he himself even is knowing that he was on some fuck shit. You get what I'm saying?
Okay, so we're at a crossroads here. Do you want me to explain the process of getting a Title III? Because if I explain to you the process to actually get a Title III, it'll make a lot more sense as to why that probably wasn't what they did.
I do want you to do, but I also want you to answer the question of, in a bail hearing, they have it so they have knowledge that he called 54 times. They have other conversations, even though they could have gotten those conversations from those people because they eventually went to the grand jury. Clearly, they testified in front of the grand jury. But they know a lot of his phone conversations. They even cite him directly saying at one point, hey, I can't talk on the phone. My phone tapped. Obviously, they're not going to admit right now that they ever tapped the phones. But how do you think they're getting these information? They're not tapping the phones. And then, of course, you can explain on Title III. Go ahead.
Okay, because the things that you're mentioning, which you're referring to phone frequency and contact, that can simply be done through a subpoena. You can just do a subpoena to AT&T or whoever his phone carrier is, and they'll give you all the tolls. And you can see that he called these individuals on these days this many times, or a pen register like before. So the things that you're saying that they're collecting, these are things that don't rise to the level of a Title III.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. That does make sense. Okay.
I can do a full thing on how, from A to Z, what it takes to actually wiretap someone's phone if you want me to. But
No. Well, maybe you could do a little bit of a hybrid. So you're back in your agent shoes. You're doing an investigation. A guy kind of like feels like the feds are closing in a bit, so he's trying to tie up his loose ends. How do you monitor that? And like how do you juggle it both, like three ways? Like how do you juggle it by saying, oh, we need to take this guy in custody now? Because who knows, he might be reaching out to people who you're trying to flip. You're trying to flip these people. He's reaching out to them, trying to offer whatever incentive, right? He's intimidating people, possibly. You know that, say you're working on the southern border, some of these people are prone to a lot of violence. They might be like, yo, if you talking to feds, I kill the shit out of you. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And also just, it's at the point in the investigation where obviously, like, you have your evidence, which may be dated, but you are hoping this person fucks themselves. You're hoping that for whatever reason, they just get on the phone and just start ranting, or does something now to basically verify your case that is based on evidences that's from over like 15 years ago. Okay.
I'm going to answer this question. Give me 1 second. I'm going to take a quick piss and get an energy drink, and I'm going to knock this out the fucking park for y'all. All right?
Okay.
Give me 1 sec.
All right. It's all good. All right. Chat while we wait for...
Hardcore, shorty scan me like a barcode, heartbreaking, I go viral, they don't know me, so the same